Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 16th and best episode of the Hashcast. And tonight I have a guest who is equally cool as myself. And you might have heard his name on the show before because we make fun of each other on Twitter. And then I realized, hey, maybe you don't follow everybody on Twitter because you listen to this on iTunes and you have no idea who this guy is. So my good friend, Steven Blomkamp, is on the show, one-on-one, special episode, deep dive into the mystery man that I call my friend. Steven, how are you?
Hello, I'm very good. Thank you for having me on.
Good. So I talked to you before, Steven. We have an interesting history on how we became friends. You're kind of like a red thread to my entire internet video game career because it all started with a little community. And you were my first friend that I met online and then just like spun out of control. So you always have a special place in my heart.
I thought you said direct threat. I was like, what?
A red threat. That's a thing, right? In English? No?
No? I don't know what that is.
Oh, God damn it. I always mess up when I have like this Dutch expression and I just literally translate it and it doesn't work at all. So, Steven, I know you pretty well, but who are you, man? Like, what are you doing? And so give yourself a proper introduction.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Steven. I was born in South Africa, but I live in Canada now, in beautiful Vancouver. And I'm a video game artist / animator.
Yeah, that is true. I've seen your art, and that's kind of my favorite story, that we became friends because of your art. Because I think it was you were doing some art for the Easy Allies. Not Easy Allies. It was Game Traders back then.
Game Traders.
Tabletop Adventures. Yeah. And it was just amazing. I think it was a comic strip that you were working
on. There's going to be a recurring theme of how everything comes back to my father. Okay. But basically, Tabletop Adventures was the first show I started watching after my father's death. Mm-hmm. And it was the first thing that actually, I just didn't worry about anything. I just had a good time. I was laughing, and I was just so grateful for that. Mm-hmm. It was just this group of people as game traders, Elise Willems, Ian Hink, Ben Moore, Michael Huber, and, I'm forgetting someone. Kyle Bosman.
Yeah.
And just great personalities, just being genuine, having a great time, being funny. And I was so moved by how positive this was in my life that I decided to draw their characters. And it was pretty significant because that was the first time since my father's death that I felt like doing art as well. So on many levels, this was very beneficial to me.
Yeah.
So I sent in the art of their characters to first I did Ian Hink's character, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I did not expect the response. They put it up as the title image. I had a joking thing in my message when I sent it to him, the only thing I asked for in return is you have to say my name sexily. Yeah. And you can actually find the clip if you search on the Game Traders thing, which is now, I can't remember who owns it now or which channel hosts it. IGN, yeah. You can actually find the episode where Ian says, okay, I have to say his name sexy now. They all start going, oh, Steven Blomkamp. It's amazing. It's so funny.
I have to.
So I was so stoked about that. And then I just carried on drawing their characters. And that was a huge confidence boost. That was the first time my art kind of was out there. I was working as an animator at the time on my first job. Mm-hmm. And I was very much in the zone of I can't do anything else. This was all I was trained to do. Working on games that no one's going to play. So that was wow, I can actually entertain and add to people's lives with my art. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. And then you saw the fan art and got in touch, I think.
Yeah. I think I saw it and I was like, oh man, this is amazing, because I was enjoying the show just as much and maybe the artwork just as much, because there was a lot of fan art being sent in and yours stood out. And then instead of being snarky, because I was still, I think, pretty much in my snarky internet area when I was doing the buttons thing, and he's right there nowadays. See button.
I didn't even notice it. That's awesome.
But I was like, wow, I'm just gonna say and I think I read something just that week probably saying reach out to the people who make the stuff you like, because it's easy to say, your show sucks, or wow, that drawing is stupid. And I think artists get a lot of that from the lovely people of the interwebs. But it's so nice to hear something nice. So I was like, hey, this is amazing. Wow, this thing. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember like making a point saying, wow, this is super cool. And then I think we kind of went back and forth for some time. And they were like, oh, this funny Steven Blomkamp guy. And then when we came to Vancouver, we had beers, and I was like, oh, man, that was pretty cool. And we actually became somewhat friends. And I've seen you like several times now.
Yeah, we've hung out a few times.
Yeah, but that was just me that you made friends with. But what I also want to touch on is that the art you made was probably the first interaction you had with the Game Traders people. And I think you and Elise like kind of got to know each other over time as well.
Yeah.
And she's a rock star now.
She's awesome. She's such a cool person. She was just so kind and gracious and encouraging with my art and stuff. And I wasn't expecting like any further contact from that, but we just, I don't know, we maintained contact, and she's sort of been a great person to get to know and talk to. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I just want to bring it home for people. Like, be nice to people, and you never know what kind of friendships you will find. Because that's just, it's easy. Like, and it's still the internet, so people are maybe a little wary on making friendships, but if they work out, they're awesome, right, Steven?
Yeah, it's be nice and also be genuine. Like, don't go in wanting something or expecting something. If you are 100% genuine in your efforts, then everything will work out fine.
Yeah.
Because so often I see people, maybe even subconsciously, maybe not completely overtly, putting expectations on people they follow and stuff like that. If they do this, they expect this, and just don't go in with that baggage, and you'll reap much more success.
Yeah, no, that's good. So that's kind of our history, but because this is the Blomkamp special, the Blomkamp special, I want to. You just mentioned you came from South Africa and you moved to Vancouver. Did you move straight to Vancouver? Or did you go anywhere else? Or was that the location?
Straight to Vancouver. So. This episode's doing wonders for my already inflated ego, by the way. So should I just start at the
Yeah, I'm just curious, how did you end up? Because you're an anime. You started as an animator. You mentioned it before. You work for a very cool game studio, and I've seen some of your work, and it looks amazing. But like, how did you do? Because it's such a big step from South Africa. Were you an animator there, or did you start it? Like, I just want to. I never heard the full story.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, like, how did that happen?
Okay, cool. Settle in.
Yeah, all right.
Stay a while and listen. No, so in high school, I was useless. Are we allowed to share on this?
Oh, yes, you can say whatever.
I was fucking useless. I was terrible. At very best, my grades were average, and most of the time, I was failing classes and just being terrible.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I could draw, but in South Africa, there's not much. Well, at the time, back then, there was not much that would do. Like, anyone who was smart, it would become an accountant or a doctor or something, and that would be a very good career to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any aptitude for anything remotely intelligent. So I took a gap year. I actually originally wanted to be a comic book artist.
Okay.
And I was looking into schools. There was one in Montana.
Okay. Oh, don't look at me for confirmation.
I can't remember. Anyway, this is so long ago. Sorry. Yeah. So I was like, I I'm going to become a comic book artist. As if you need to go to school. Like, as with many things in art, you don't. You can actually just teach yourself. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So I thought that's what I was going to do, and that's a very sort of like. I don't think that's the career anyone should try and start out with. At least as your primary career, it's usually like a side thing.
Yeah.
So I took a gap year after high school, not knowing what I wanted to do. And during that gap year, I applied. I was like, okay, comic books isn't going to support me. So I applied for at the time, the first animation school in South Africa was opening.
Yeah.
I applied to get to there and got accepted into that. It was a 3-year course. But before that was only the next year, so I had my full gap year. And during that gap year, my parents were like, "Okay, you have to go visit your sister."
Mm-hmm.
She was in Canada, in Vancouver, studying at the Vancouver Film School, doing 2D animation. And so I took a 2-week trip, went to Canada, and it's hard to explain. Within even like the first few hours of being in Vancouver, I had this feeling I'd never felt before, of feeling at home.
Yeah.
Everyone was, I mean, the stereotype is true, but it's a wonderful stereotype. Everyone was so friendly. Everyone is so like, I think it's so different to South Africa because everyone is out to get you in South Africa. Everyone is like, this is my thing and I'm going to attack anyone who encroaches, just with the history of that place, all the racism, all the divide, all the crime. It's such a hostile place.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing I forgot to mention growing up is I was the only nerd in my group, in my school. Like, I was the only one into video games, the only one into comic books. That wasn't a very common thing back then in South Africa. And it always made me sad that I had friends who I would force this shit onto, but it was always a one-way transaction kind of thing. They did their best to sort of tolerate my extreme nerdiness. So the tipping point in that Vancouver trip was the Vancouver Art Gallery that week was hosting a video game only thing. The whole art gallery was video game history. And I was like, what? Like, do people celebrate video games here? This is insane. This is back in 2007.
Yeah.
No, 2006, sorry. Okay. During my gap year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I need to live here. Like, I love this place. Yeah. This is incredible. I went to animation school in South Africa. It was a 3-year course. Turned out like I was actually pretty good at all this stuff, and I was on top of my class. And I finally found something I was like actually excelling at, and not always getting reprimanded by teachers for. Mm-hmm. The only problem is being South Africa, being a smaller, like the first institution of its kind. It was kind of like you couldn't fail.
Yeah.
I guess how sort of like pay to pass schools work in America now. Mm-hmm. It was kind of, so eventually I applied to the Vancouver Film School and got accepted, and I left my South African course early.
Okay.
Went to the Vancouver Film School, had serious visa issues, was a week late. I don't know if you know that my nickname's Nancy Pansy.
Yeah, I've heard, I know, but I need to hear the full story on why people think your name is Nancy Pansy. So,
brief aside, I was a week late to class. So, because of my visa issues, because of the South African passport shit, and everyone thinks you're a dirty immigrant who doesn't want to do anything or whatever. So, I was a week late, which means I missed orientation, and I missed the whole, everyone gets to introduce themselves, so I had to go up in front of the class myself and do a solo introduction. And the teacher was like, "Oh, do you prefer Steven or Steve?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be a dick about my own name. Like, I don't care. I want that up my own ass." So I'll try and be fun. This is a great opportunity to be funny and blend in more. So I was like, "Oh, I don't care. You can call me Nancy if you like." And I've literally been Nancy ever since. To the point where now I love it. Like, I respond more to Nancy than Steven, which is really funny. So then, do we want to pause it? Do you have another question? Or
no, I'm just like, because I went through the immigration to Canada as well, because I moved from the Netherlands to Canada, not for school, but for my lovely wife, who's can't hear me, I think. She's watching TV. So it's a hassle. It's like not just paperwork, but like at that point, you decided I want to live in Canada because I understand why it's a great country. But it's by yourself. You had your sister here, I think.
No, my sister left by then. She left back in 2006. Okay, so this was 2010 when I moved.
Okay, so you pick up all your stuff to pursue the dream. Like you wanted to go to Canadian Film School.
It was a pretty easy choice, mostly because I was just so in love with what I got to do and the country I was going to, I was so disheartened by where I grew up.
Yeah.
Like, just so sick of the racism, so sick of like corruption in the government. It just felt hopeless back home.
Yeah.
And that, which is a sort of pathetic thing to say from my point of view, because I grew up in a super privileged, like very safe bubble environment with stuff that most of the people in South Africa like wish they could have had, kind of thing. So for me to like complain about it is probably offensive.
Oh.
But so yeah, I just it was easier to leave my home because I didn't feel like it was home. Vancouver felt like my home immediately.
Yeah.
And I moved with my then girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, she came with you?
She came with me.
Okay.
It's funny, we were already sort of at the end of our relationship.
Yeah.
And
let's move to a different country together. That will be good.
I think we thought that might like save things.
Yeah.
But bless her, she tried her best, but it just wasn't working. We were two very different people.
Yeah.
Still very good friends now. But I'm becoming a man. I'm only 31. Anyway,
that's
so
a good part there. Yeah.
So yeah, I have family here.
Okay.
As you know, I've got my cousin Neil.
Yeah.
And his brother Mike and sisters. But our families always grew up. I didn't know them. Like we grew up very separately.
Yeah.
So moving was kind of the first time I even started speaking to any of them.
Okay. Well, that's. I kind of had the same experience as you, where it's easier than it should be, maybe. Because you leave a lot behind, but you have so much to look forward to, and it's all new and it's exciting, that it's easy to forget that everybody else, like, okay, you're gone. Like my mom probably still holds a bit of a grudge.
She's still,
like I'm the only one here in Canada. Like my sister's over this week, but it's just me. But it's what I love most, I think, about moving to a different country on the other side of the world is you get a fresh start. Like I think everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but you have friends that are friends, but you don't really know why, because they were your friends for a long time. When you start over, you get to pick the people you want to hang out with, like hand pick your social circle, and it became a lot better for me personally. Like I miss some of the real friends that I had, but I no longer have to be like, ugh, I have to deal with that family or that member or that friend.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a great experience. But I know that my family like misses me a lot because I'm super cool and stuff. But it's kind of always weird. Like you move to different countries, it's exciting. It almost feels a little selfish.
There's a whole topic we can go to on that.
Yeah, well, let's dig into that. I apologize for the viewers. What I keep doing is I keep looking at your face while I'm talking. So it's going to be like the one screen Steven episode. But I had a little bit too much sun today, so I look a little reddish anyway. So nobody's missing anything. So you got accepted to school. You were Nancy Pansy from that point on.
Yeah. So I was Nancy Pansy. I did. It's a year-long course.
Yeah.
At the end of it, the school was like, "Oh, okay. Well, good news." Because I was panicking. I was like, "I have no way to stay in the country. Like no one's going to hire a junior out of school."
Yeah.
I mean, they hire juniors, but they don't hire foreign juniors.
Yeah.
Because they have to pay for your sponsorship and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, how the hell am I going to stay in Canada? I do not want to go back to South Africa. Going back to South Africa terrifies me. It's like something I really, really, really don't want to do. So at the end of it, the school was like, oh, by the way, government's doing this new experimental program. Everyone on a foreign visa gets a open work permit equal to the time they studied. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
That puts me on equal standing with Canadian citizens. So I can... Because the industry needs people that badly. It was this whole thing organized between the industry and government. Then we graduated. 2 weeks after we graduated, the school's like, oh, by the way, sorry, we actually can't do that for you. You're all going to have to go home. So this is where being super privileged and life's easy and all that bullshit comes into it. I studied again.
Yeah.
Because basically what happened was my parents... The way I understand it is they basically gave me access to my inheritance early.
Yeah.
And that was what allowed me to move and leave South Africa and study.
Yeah.
So I studied again to get that visa.
Yeah.
I went into game design. Weirdly, I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Really?
It was nothing I was expecting. Because I said to the recruiter, I was like, look, because the first thing I studied was 3D animation and visual effects. And I went into the animation stream.
Yeah.
So then I went into game design, and I hated it. It was all just scripting and programming. And as I mentioned before, I'm an idiot. I'm completely stupid. I said to the recruiter, I can't do this shit. Like, I can only do art.
Yeah.
And part of this course is art. So I was like, okay, I'll be the art guy of the course.
Yeah.
There wasn't any art. The first art lesson was literally 3 hours on how to open Photoshop. So I was like, oh, goodness. So I dropped out of that.
Yeah.
And went back to 3D animation and visual effects and did a second year and got the visa. There were some complications. I got very ill.
Yeah.
Had my appendix out halfway through, so I had to go back into another class. So I finished even later. But there were complications with the surgery, so now that was 7 years ago. So I've had chronic pain from nerve damage ever since that, which has been fun to deal with. But when I graduated, I got the open work permit, and then a friend who I went to school with got me my first job at Hellbent Games, making Nintendo 3DS Lego titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some of the Lego Friends Forever. What was it?
No one should play anything I worked on back then. No offense, I mean, sorry to be a dick, but they were kids games that were.
But it must have sold. Like, kids must have loved them.
They did sell well.
Yeah.
You can kind of sell anything to kids.
Well,
like, I was just happy to be working in games.
Yeah.
Growing up in South Africa as the only nerd with none of that industry there at the time. It's getting better now. Yeah. But I never thought I'd work in games.
No.
So even though I was animating someone rescuing a fawn and, like, I don't know, trying on fashion dresses and all that, like, bullshit, I couldn't believe I was a video game artist.
Yeah.
But
so I know you didn't really appreciate your time. Well, not appreciate the time, but, like, it was not your favorite thing to work on.
It wasn't the ideal thing. I think in school everyone expects to be working on, like, Gears of War out of school or something. And some, like, one girl I went to school with, she went straight to CD Projekt Red to work on The Witcher.
Okay.
So some people do that. They're, I mean, amazing people, but the rest of us, we all have to earn our stripes.
Yeah. So how did
Lego Friends?
Yeah. So that was your stripe. Was that enough to kickstart the rest of your career, or was there anything in between from where you are now? So
that ties into the game trailers Dungeons and Dragons thing. Yeah. Interestingly. Basically, I was working as an animator on that thing, thinking I wasn't worth anything or any better. A good friend of mine offered me needed help with his team. They had a presentation for the then unannounced reveal of the Vive VR system, and they had, like. So he was like, we need someone to, like, build a character, design a character, build a character, rig it, and animate it, and do this thing. And I was like, I've never done any of those things. I've only been an animator. Yeah. I can't do it. I recommended a friend instead. I was like, there's no way I can do it. I recommended a friend instead. Yeah. And then I went back to normal stuff. It didn't work out with the friend. Yeah. They ended up letting him go. But so then Michael came back to me, Mike Wilson, and he was like, okay, dude, please, we need you. Come to the island. They're on Vancouver Island. Come to the island. We'll talk about the technology. Like, we absolutely need you. We've got, like, 3 months to do this. Yeah. And this time, this was just after I had given game trailers the fan art, and everyone responded super positively and, like, was really stoked about it. So I actually was like, oh, I have something to contribute. Actually, I'm not awful. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. So it wasn't. I didn't leave my job. No. I stayed at Hellbent, but in the evenings, I did another 8 hours for these guys. Yeah. And that's 3 months straight. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah. It was insane, but it was the most fulfilling work because I was doing things I never thought I could do. So we were working on this demo. You can see it on YouTube, the Gallery 6 Elements VR demo or something, and it was going to be people's first experience, one of the first experiences in VR.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by the technology because I was very anti-VR, anti-controls, very skeptical. I thought the Kinect was a load of shit. just like a very pessimistic, negative Nancy. So when I tried the technology, I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was like, there's something here. There's something genuinely worthwhile to contribute to gaming. This isn't a gimmick. I'm sold. Yay.
Yeah.
Because it was also the first technology to do like 360 degrees room scale. You'd walk around the physical space. It's not just sit there and all that jazz. So did that for 3 months of just 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Developed carpal tunnel from that, kids. Don't do that. It's fucking stupid. That's an injury I still go to physiotherapy for.
Yeah.
But the work was astounding. I was sold. It took another year until I got my permanent residency, and then that was Clouded Games. Then Clouded could hire me.
Okay.
But but wait. Sorry, I skipped how Mike contacted me.
Yeah, because like I didn't want to interrupt you because I know Mike. You work with Mike now, but he just showed up in the story like a ghost. So who's Mike? Who's Mike Wilson?
I keep assuming. I'm sorry. Let's backtrack. So, okay, sorry. This goes. Okay, there's a theme here in that fan art has a lot of power.
Yes.
Okay, when it comes from a good place. So during my game design course, my one term of game design, they had. Oh, okay, sorry. Wait. Go back to 2009 in South Africa.
Okay.
I was playing the game. I was really pumped for the game Prototype by Radical Entertainment.
Yeah.
I was just enamored. So I drew a 1.2 meter by 90 centimeter fan art poster of the main character,
So
and
first
I mailed.
of all, that is nuts. That is huge.
It was like the first big artwork I'd ever done, and like with a new technique I taught myself and all sorts of things. I was really stoked. I was really proud of this piece of work. So I mailed that along with a USB making of video and a letter to Radical Entertainment just to be like, thank you guys. I have just been so inspired by this game. I absolutely love it. I hope you like this poster. So that's 2009 back in South Africa before I was going to Vancouver. Part of me always thought, I'll go to school and then I'll work at Radical Entertainment. Little did I know that they would close down in 2010 or something, 2011.
Yeah.
So mailed it off. I didn't hear back from them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine. I mean, that's a bummer, but whatever. I can't expect anything. I was expecting to sort of maybe get a response because
Get a card.
I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in my game design course, one of the people who worked on Prototype came to give a talk. So afterwards, it's like, hey, buddy, I drew a massive poster and I mailed it to you guys, and I got a receipt from the delivery company that your officers had received it. Someone signed for it. Did you ever get this huge poster? And he's like, no. I was like, and he's like, no, we would have totally gone apeshit if we had received that. So someone, I guess, at the front desk just pocketed my poster.
Yeah.
But that started a friendship with him.
Yeah.
And then one day on Facebook, I jokingly insulted him.
Yeah.
In like a weird, not serious insult joke thing. But
kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Wilson saw that insult and thought it was hilarious, and then added me as a friend. And then we started an online friendship where we spoke for like a year or two before we met.
Yeah.
And then that led to Mike knowing that I was an artist, reaching out to me to do this Clouded gig.
That's so funny.
Sorry, I left that part out.
Yeah, it's just a tiny detail where
it is funny though that fan art has always played a significant part in my life.
Yeah, that's why I think all these stories are so interesting. Because, like you said, fan art, just you and I and your career, and we'll get into some other stuff maybe. So Mike Wilson, Cloudhead Games. Now you're there.
Got my PR. Started working for. Left Hellbent. And then started at Clouded Games as like the generalist artist. So I'm not just an animator anymore. I get to do the whole pipeline. I get to do concept art, character creation, modeling, rigging, animation, everything. And I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just for the people that are not super into how that works, can you explain it in 3 minutes, like what your job is exactly? You can do 4 minutes. I'll give you 4.
No, I can do it in less than that. It's just simple. When you're playing the game and you see a character, I did that dude.
Okay.
And you're looking at your hands, I built those things and I made them move.
Yeah.
And like that kind of thing. And maybe some environments, I built some of those things.
Yeah, no, I mean more like your day-to-day job. Like how does that work? Like you get an email saying, dude, we need hands, and then you like do the sketch of the hand. Like how does that process? Because it's so easy for me to see them on the screen. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know someone made that, but I know that's like a lot of work. Like that's not just pictures of hands that they put in there. I'm just curious to hear about the process for people just dabbling into that, or maybe needing to know how much work it is, because I think the amount of work always gets overlooked on these things. So can you share something on that? Like,
sure.
How busy are you, man?
Busy. It doesn't feel busy though.
Yeah, fair.
Like that whole cliche about do something you love, it'll never feel like work kind of thing. No, it starts with meetings. And planning, and figure out what we need. So we need new player hands, I guess, will be the example. Oh no, player hands is boring. We need a giant, like the first thing I did, the giant rock monster.
Yeah.
That's gonna teach the player how to do certain things and has to articulate in certain ways. So we'll have a meeting. That's what we need. I'll draw a bunch of sketches and then paint up a bunch of sketches. If you want, I don't know if you want to, I could send you files that you could cut into the video.
Oh, I might try that. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Otherwise, don't worry about it.
An editing job here.
On my art station if people want to see it. Do drawings, and then we take it into 3D and build 3D models and sculpt and stuff. And then we put a skeleton in it so we can move it. I mean, I put a skeleton and move it. And then we get.
So you put a skeleton in it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you put a skeleton in a drawing?
Sorry, not a drawing. From the drawing, you go into 3D and you take a cube and you pull faces out of the cube and you mold it, much like 3D pottery.
Yeah, I've seen you do it once and it blew my mind. Like
it's really not that fancy.
Well, I thought it was fancy because you using terminology like throat bags. I was like, okay, I know the word throat bag now. I think you're animating Law from the new Tabletop Escapades, and I thought it was kind of funny. Like, if you do not know what we're talking about, Law was a player character made by Michael Huber, who is always a bit rowdy, and Steven spent like, I don't know, 8 hours getting the character, or
much longer.
Much longer.
Yeah, character from start to finish like that takes about. I mean, I'm slower than most people. Law probably took me about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and then Huber gets his character killed.
And then immediately dies, because my whole plan was to then, because they were starting a new D&D adventure, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get from the start. I'm going to model all their characters in 3D.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do an intro animation so they could play that every time.
Yeah.
They'll do the sick-ass, like the 90s X-Men intro.
Yeah.
Cartoon intro. That kind of thing, yeah. And then his character died immediately. I was like, there's no way I'm making it as like 7th character.
No.
So I thought
it was funny. So okay, so is that what they call rigging, or is that
yes?
Not yet?
Rigging is when you use the software to put a sort of rudimentary skeleton in the character, and then you bind the geometry you built to the skeleton so that you can move it.
Okay.
To animate it.
Okay. Yeah, I find this all very fascinating now that I'm dabbling into trying to build my first simple platform game, and it's a pre-made character.
So cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, well, I haven't touched it as much as I would like to, because I noticed that I would start when my wife would go to work at like 7:30, and then she would come home and I would still be behind my computer, and I made like 10% of one level. And like, okay, this takes a lot of time, and time goes really fast when I'm doing this, so I gotta make sure.
But you're doing all the scripting and stuff. That's I do not understand that at all.
Well,
programmers are wizards to me.
Yeah, but this is like just software that basically does it for you. That gives you like blocks of code, and you just grab it, saying, okay, if you press this, then character does that. Like it's very made
so cool.
easy, but it's fun. But now I'm learning all these technologies, so that it's pretty cool. But so rigging is you put the skeleton, you move it, and that's also part of your job. So it's you design the sketch, paint the sketch, get approved, 3D animated, which is basically like a static, like puppet, I guess, how you can call it. Before you put the rigging in, it's basically just a clay model, right? But in your software, yeah. Okay, so then you put skeleton, and that is still you.
We're skipping some steps, There's unwrapping, there's texturing. When you paint the model. And then there's rigging, and then there's animating, and then you hand it off. I mean, I'm too stupid to put it into the game engine myself, so I hand it off to programmers, and they put it in the game.
Okay, but do you get like a list of animations that they need the character to do?
Yeah, and part of the job is coming up with like, because you're always trying to solve problems. Mm-hmm. So with the giant character I built for that first demo, Boulder, you'd need like an animation that introduces him. You need an animation that just because the player can do. He waits for cues from the player, so you need an animation where he's just idling. Mm-hmm. So he's not like rigid until you do something. And then within that, you're trying to find performances that add to his character. Mm-hmm. So it's really satisfying work. You're always problem solving.
Yeah. It just sounds so cool that you get to like build
it's
a character.
It's a dream job.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you saw it for the first time in the finished game?
Very emotional for the demo when we first.
Or just for you the first time.
What was quite funny is that despite Boulder being the only character in that demo, nobody really paid attention to him. I think the technology was so new and amazing. Everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm in VR!" They didn't notice the 60-foot Russian rock talking to them. Yeah. But that was a bummer. But no, ever since it's every time. Even when Lego Friends came out, I went to Toys R Us and I bought myself a copy. And the lady at the counter was like, "Why the hell are you buying this?" And I was like, "I worked on it." She's like, "Oh, great."
Yeah, people don't appreciate the work that goes into it, even on the Lego games. But so that's you would say a success story, I guess. Like you were the nerd in South Africa who wanted to do this, and you managed to do that. So I think there's a little bit of like
it's not a success story. Like I said before, I had access to anything I ever needed because of my privilege. So I don't think I overcame some great thing. And there's a dark. I want to get into like the selfish aspect of it, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's sort of an aspect of like how do I start this? Okay, so. It was convenient. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible word to use for this upcoming thing. Yeah. To leave because my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Yeah. At early onset Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't deal with that. I just really couldn't deal with that. So part of leaving was, in effect, running away from that. Yeah. That kind of happened while I was leaving. I don't think we knew before. Because Alzheimer's, you don't diagnose until years into it's already happening. Yeah. So I was living in Canada, and if I left, I would have had to give up on all of this to be with my father. Yeah. But I was scared, and I didn't. Yeah. And I wanted, I told myself, this is what my dad would have wanted. He wouldn't have wanted me to sacrifice this. Mm-hmm. To just go back and then for him to pass away. Yeah. But it's a price you pay. Like I live with that guilt every day, every decision. Part of it feeds into how grateful I am for everything that's happening, but it's like I had to go to therapy. Yeah. I probably still should. I recommend it to anyone who's considering therapy. It's the best decision I ever made in my life. Yeah. It was. I feel like I ran away from a very important family thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a double-edged sword to like this whole you're living a dream life. Oh, but you weren't there when your father was forgetting everything. And
Well, that's why I still think you have a success story, because it took a hard decision to do that, and I think just dreams
it's
are
hard
fleeting.
to see that though, when everything is so
Sure.
beneficial and selfish.
Yeah.
It just feels different, I guess.
But I see what you mean, and I see how you feel that guilt. But at the same time, you aren't born with talent. Maybe a little bit, but it's hard work. You taught yourself how to draw. You taught yourself how to draw good enough to go to school. You taught yourself to animate good enough to stand out. And I've seen your zombie chicken film.
Oh, my first student film. It's aged so badly.
Hey,
I got one comment on it on one of my own private videos for it. Not private, but I uploaded a walk the chicken. It was a PETA member. It's this is disgusting. How can you do this to a chicken? I'm it's not a real chicken.
Yeah, hey man, if they worry about Mario's Tanuki suit, they gotta worry about your chicken. But I think you don't give yourself enough credit. Yes, you might feel you walk away from that and the responsibility, but like you said, it's important for you to make to find your own happiness, and I'm sure any parent would want that for their kids, right? So
I try and tell myself. There's one thing knowing the rational decision, and the other one, what you feel is very different.
Yeah, I know. I personally do not need to give this a lot of thought when, because I am a dad now, and just the idea of my daughter moving to another country where I get to see her once every year, I would oh my god, what did I do to my poor old mom? So it is tough, but I admire your story, because there is a lot you gave up to make work, and I think it's so cool when people get to do what they were set out to do.
That's all thanks to my dad, his work and stuff.
Oh, it's good. So that's why, I'm not here telling you oh, you shouldn't feel bad, because that's never gonna go away. But that also made you who you are. And like you said, and when I tweeted about having you on the show in a more serious setting, I see you try so hard every time to make the space, the gaming space, better for everybody. And I think that is the payoff of what you did, what you had to go through, and how you had to grow. Because, you're still young. I'm an old guy, but having to deal with something like that, with watching what your father had to go through, nobody's prepared for that, man. So I don't think
it was a wake up call.
Yeah.
It was very much, oh, we're not all invulnerable. Oh, life is actually, because like I said, I grew up in this privileged bubble where I didn't need to want for anything. Life kind of doesn't seem real. Mm-hmm. And then we had this massive family tragedy.
Yeah.
And the other thing that surprised me is, the Alzheimer's is one thing, but what happens to everyone else from that, the ripple, the whole family, almost none of my family's on talking terms anymore.
Yeah.
It just shattered everything.
Yeah.
So it was a wake up call to also, because I think what people don't know is when I moved here, I would beat old me up. I was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I still am, but I was really a piece of shit. With all these, all the things people are fighting about now on the internet, for example, when Ubisoft got shit for not building female characters in Assassin's Creed Unity, I was why should they get shit for that?
Yeah.
It's hard work making characters. Maybe they can't do it. Being one of these people without even realizing it, that don't realize how important inclusivity and diversity is. I was one of those dirtbags. Yeah. And then you have an experience that cuts you to your knees, and you realize you develop empathy. Yeah, you get it. The power of, I can't preach empathy enough. Just trying to see the world from other people's views, how important that is, how much more you learn and gain as a human, how much more fulfilling life is when you're not fighting all the time and not angry and not trying to be negative in a cool way or something. You're just, it's,
oh god, I hate 20-year-old myself too. It's just terrible. it's so embarrassing to look back. And there's so what we're dealing with now in the industry is just this unchecked. I think the way the industry has grown has allowed for, through anonymity and all this stuff,
and only catering to sort of people like you and me. It's created this giant toxic monster.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting to deal with.
Yeah.
But we have to deal with it, or this will all fail, in my opinion. Like, if we're scaring off new players, if we're scaring off new people to share all this wonderful stuff with, we're just gonna disappear.
Yeah.
And be pointless.
Yeah, I
don't
think
want
that's
that to
interesting because, like you said, like when you look at your own 20s and you kind of hate yourself. But some people like us, hopefully, they kind of grow out of that phase. They kind of mature. They discover the power of empathy. But if the gaming industry would have catered to like 20-year-old us, then we would grow out of what's appealing to how it used to be. So it just makes sense for them to broaden their horizon and get more diverse and add more inclusivity because the market is changing. And at the same time, we're seeing the backlash of the 20-year-old us's now. They're just like, meh, they're still that.
Yeah.
But like this, hopefully, it's going to be around for a while. So I don't understand why it's a problem for people. I always think of that image from that meme on the internet from Harry Potter, like 36 present. I had 37 last year. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. But it's like what I try to do. Like I know I have my jokes and like I've been salty about Octopath Traveler all week, but like there's so much negativity that when I see people like yourself who try to put a positive spin and sometimes getting in shit for that, like without those voices, it would just be a garbage shoot.
It's something we all. I feel because I was very guilty of what you talk about, like cynical jokes and pessimism and stuff, because that's a very easy thing to fall into.
Yeah,
and we still do it. But I think there's a difference. There's a way to criticize something if it comes from a place of caring about said thing, and not. I think everyone needs to look at why they love something. Yeah, and then see how that affects how they treat others in regards to that thing. Yeah. Speaking of like it backfiring and really getting my first taste of all this, I was recently the star of a whole bunch of 4chan threads. Yeah. Which scared the ever-loving shit out of me. Yeah. It was because I'm a nobody. I'm not like Anita Sarkeesian or someone with a following or whatever. And I'm not a woman. I'm not a minority, a person of color or anything, obviously. So I'm like invisible on the hate radar. Yeah. Another privileged position. But I remember, I said something. I was sick of seeing people. This was back when Bosky closed. Yeah. Cliff Bleszinski studio. Yeah. I was sick of seeing everyone celebrating that as if there's some divine retribution. Yeah. Because they don't like Cliff Bleszinski or some bullshit. And I was like, people lost their jobs. Yeah. Don't be shitheads. And that got screenshotted and posted all over 4chan on like a whole bunch of threads. And I read every single one because I was I don't go to 4chan. It's my first time going. The only reason I sorted out was because I Googled my name. Because I was like, why are my Twitter mentions so garbage? Why are all these like Nazis and alt-right people and like really hateful, angry, toxic garbage people like harassing me? Why do they hate me so much? And no one, I don't have a lot of followers. Suddenly I'm on these people's radar. And sure enough, I found all these threads. I read through all of them. Yeah. It's people just, there's so much hate for anything different. I don't know why people are so afraid of. It's so scary. There's so much work we have to do. Yeah, I like sometimes I'm like, is this performance art that people just like to piss or? And I kind of hope what it is, but I know it's not. Like, people care so much about it in the wrong way. But like I said, it's always terrifying to be on the receiving end of it. Like, I've had. Only a very brief, like there was like 10 tweets I got about someone made a comment on Mario Odyssey, one of the demos where they dressed him up in like the sombrero, and it was like
and this one lady made a comment about cultural appropriation, and it was just a comment like, hey man, you do this, like, but beware. Like, it was very mild critique of the game, and she got so much shit. And I mentioned, and I know this person, I met her, she's lovely. So I mentioned, like, hey, I'm sorry you have to go through this. That's what I said. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Don't be a stranger. Yeah. And then they came after me for that as well. I was like, and that was when you go into your Twitter analytics, my most engaged tweet that month was telling someone who was going through an harassment campaign saying, hey man, I hope you're all right. Let me know if you need anything. That was my most engaged tweet because everybody clamped on that. That's
why I don't understand. That's why I said to people, look at the thing you love and why you act the way you do about it. Because what does that gain? Yeah. What is the point of all of it? It's so hateful and it must be an awful existence to live with that much hate.
Yeah. Well, my power fantasy in this is that people will grow up like we did, and then they're gonna have to be confronted with their own shitty behavior like 10 years from now when they're like parents or whatever. Like they've done the growth, and then they're like, oh my god, and they're gonna be like this. But I wish that was true, because I know there's like 40-year-olds doing this shit, and they had their chance. But the meaning of this was, we're getting like a little reeled off on
Sorry.
this. No, it's fine because it's all connected. But like, I like what you do with the positivity that you bring, because you're one of the most genuinely nice people that I've met in this industry, and I think that's why we kind of connected in the way that we did, because I met a lot of people, but you're one of the people that I actually like. I call one of my friends. It helped that we hung out for a couple of times, but that's what I wanted. Like, I want to not that I have this huge influence, but uplift the voices that you think make a positive change. And I always say this, and I hope I bring it into practice as much as I can. But and here's what I sometimes struggle with, Steven. Like, I know the relationship that we have, where it's always like teasing and a little like the boys be boys jokes. Like, we are guilty of that. I am guilty of that, where I was like, okay, he's my friend, but here's a stab underwater because it's funny. And I'm trying to do that less, and I'll never be able to get that out, because that's how I was raised. That's how humor works in Holland. Like, that's 28 years of cultivation. But I need to find a way to balance that out a little better, because even I get salty on the internet, and when I see someone who's a terrible person, I also have the reflex to dunk on that person, and every time I do that, I add negativity to the heap. Even though it's good intentions, even though I am trying to change minds, it is still additional crap on the internet.
I think it's about good intentions, though.
Yeah.
I think once you have that awareness, it's not about being perfect.
No.
We'd be fools to think we're doing something like perfectly or stupid like that. That's disgusting to think.
Yeah.
It's we can criticize each other in a joking way, because we're not using things that hurt each other.
No.
And if that ever happened, we would respectfully tell the other person, and then we'd understand and adapt.
Yeah.
So it's just about always being open to being wrong.
Yeah.
And coming from a place of caring. Like, I don't mind our jabs at each other. I think it's hilarious.
I don't think I'll ever get out of it. Yeah.
You need someone to correct you on your terrible opinions about Batman versus Superman and all that jazz.
Okay, let's just be honest, Steven. The scene where Batman takes Martha out of the building is the best Batman scene in any Batman movie.
I don't even remember it. I honestly don't remember it.
I just trying to go into having to watch the movie.
The most I remember about that movie is our fight about the movie.
It's kind of its own meme at this point, I guess. Like, and I've really only seen Batman vs Superman twice. Once on the plane and one for reals.
Oh, you watched it more than once. Why do you hate yourself so much? Okay, sorry, I don't mean to.
See that we gotta get a couple of hours. People are gonna get bored. Like, who are these people? But no, I think it's good, and I'm really happy that I got to do this, honestly, because like I said, like, people might not have the context of why we are always like shitting on each other like this, but it comes from a place of love, people. It comes from a place of love. But I think it was fun not fun. It was good to hear your story because you're such a fascinating dude, and I really do think that you are one of the lucky few. I know that this is a stupid word to say lucky few because of what you had to go through and what you had to give up. But I get a good feeling when I see people do the dream job. So I think you make for an interesting story. And I don't always have to have superstars. Sometimes I can just have Steven Blomkamp on.
Thank you. This honestly means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
it really,
that was good. It was good.
You're doing a lot for the community by putting a spotlight on people.
Right. Yeah. It's like this is like I said in the beginning, episode 16. There have not been 2 episodes the same, but I think I'm starting to get a better idea on what I want the show to be, and it's this kind of stuff. Like find a story and have the people talk, and because everybody has a story, right? I just have to find it, and I think you had a great one, and you're my friends, and people have already seen you on several episodes. You were on the first episode with Marcus Beer. But it was only him talking. It was almost like the Marcus Beer podcast. You should come back. Marcus, you should come back. I know you're not listening to this.
I love Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus is fantastic. Marcus is I'll pimp him up a little bit. Is one of those people that I would never thought I would ever be a friend of. Because he was such a big name, like back in the day.
I was a fan of his.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I was a big fan of his. Like from the Game Trainers day, I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to Marcus. Don't show him this. This is terrible.
I'm gonna do a clip out of this, obviously. But that was so weird because I don't even know how I got to talk to him. It must have been Twitter, obviously, but I remember meeting him at E3. I went to see someone else, Tara Bruno, who's the PR rep for Square Enix. She has her own company now, and I went to see her because I knew her a little better. And she was talking to Marcus, so I was introduced, and he knew who I was. We must have talked a little bit, but classic Marcus. I think he called me a carrot, and then we became quite close after that.
That's awesome.
And then he started writing for Loot Crate. As well, and then before he got his first article out, I think they rolled up that entire site. So that's probably the link that I had. So there we
go. Well-meaning insults and fan art. That's how you get around this place.
That's the message of this episode. Like, if you're listening to this, I want you to send me a piece of Steven Blomkamp fan art. And
that is something I've always said. Like, my measure for success is when one day someone draws fan art of something I've made.
That's so cool.
That sort of happened, but not on like an official scale. Mm-hmm. So I'm just waiting for the day, one day when someone's actually played something and actually draws fan art of something, and they'll be like, "Fuck yeah!"
That's right. I had it twice, so not to like, I'm gonna one up you, but I understand what you say because. Once I rebranded to the Hashtagonist from Buttons, and your friend Jenny, who is now a friend of mine as well, she did the first design of the Hashcat, which I've had for like 2 years, and then I think the first one did like pixel art of the cat, like in 8-bit, and I was like, that is so cool, and I posted it on Facebook and whatever, and then another Steven Purefoy, he. Like out of nowhere, he said, like, I'm just making this cat for the guy that makes me laugh. And he drew like this amazing Hashcat. And it was just so awesome. And that's why...
Purifier is good people.
He is fantastic. So I contacted him when I did my other rebrand, my second one, where I wanted to kind of not be the cat on the internet anymore. Like, be part of the brand, but like you can't hide behind... a character, and I also didn't want people to think I was like the furry mascot for something else, because like you do whatever you want to do, man. Like I really don't care. But I had one of my tweets go through like the furry fandom, and boy, were there ever some interesting avatars on my timeline for weeks
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think no, you're right though. Like getting rid of that level of anonymity is part of fixing the problem.
Yeah.
Like as much as like it was scary to see people like talk about emailing my work and all sorts of shit, like doing their wanting to get me fired bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's so important to stand behind your name and set an example and like.
Yeah. And I'm still not 100% there because I'm still the
not everyone can be like some of these people are so attacked that you need that.
Yeah.
But
and for me, it's more like brand awareness that I kind of stuck with. But now that I started doing the show and I'm on my face out there and my name out there, it's different. It's a little easier. But people just would not want to know who I am if I got completely rid of that. And I like it. So now you kind of have my face kind of look like that. I told Steven, like, you can draw me, but make me just a little bit more handsome than I really am. And boy, did he go overboard on that one.
What's funny is Purifoy is also part of that Game Traders crew. Yes. All of this is a lesson.
Yeah.
The people at Game Traders, that group that are, like, most of them are now Easy A, some of them are Funhouse.
Yeah.
What they did with that show was foster a very positive community about inclusion, about diversity. And look where it led. Like, I've got some of my best friendships now from that. And it grew into this network where now you know Jenny and she did work for you. And then you became friends with her. And then, like, we're friends with Purifoy. And then this whole family of people, because a group of people got together and decided to make something good and make the industry a better place.
Yeah, I do really appreciate the work that those people did in Easy Allies, and I had Brandon on the show a couple of weeks ago. Also, that was just mind blown to have that. I'm not gonna clip that one out, but so just be nice to each other. People, it's not that hard. You do not know what kind of good stuff can come out of it, because it can lead to literally all kinds of stuff. You can get job offers through just not being a dick on the internet, or just reaching out to people, do some nice stuff. So that's do some nice stuff. That's the the message of the day. Because yes, it's easy to say, okay, don't be a dick online. Like, that is one step, but being just quiet online also doesn't help. No, but actively reach out to people every now and then, and you'll be amazed of what can happen. Like, I've been talking to you now for over an hour just because I told you your art is awesome.
Thank you.
So I think I'm gonna leave it kind of dead, because otherwise we're gonna go off on another 2-hour tangent. So reach out, do something nice. Speaking of reaching out, Steven, when people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? Podcast and Shill. Just give it to me.
Okay. So you can find me on Twitter at @sblomkamp, or Instagram. I think it's the same thing. If I try and talk about game stuff, but it's mostly just pictures of my cat. Yes. So if you're up for a really adorable cat or waffles, follow me on Twitter.
That is good.
And engage, and I won't bite.
And how about your game?
Can
they still buy it?
They can still buy it. I think it's on sale now. Okay. Episode 1, The Gallery, Call of the Starseed, and Episode 2 of The Gallery, Heart of the Emberstone. It's if you have VR, all three of you out there who have VR, I'm very proud of it. It's a decent VR adventure game, kind of in the vein of Myst, set in the 80s, very sci-fi, inspired by films like Goonies and Dark Crystal.
I have played the first episode. I have not played.
You played all of the first episode.
Yeah, which it was cool, but it also made me miss your mom, because she was in the house while I was playing that, and you just did not get me out of VR, and I'm a little mad about that still. But yeah, if you do have VR, do absolutely check this game out. I think it is setting the bar for what VR games can be. So check it out. Cloudhead Games. Good guys there. Well, I am, and I said this on the last episode, I need to get better at this, because I forget that not everybody just follows me on Twitter. I am the Hashtagonist on Twitter, and you can find me there, and you can find me on patreon.com/the Hashtagonist if you really like what we do. And I think this is going to be the kind of episodes that I want to keep doing. So if you like this, then come back another time when I have someone actually famous there. You never know. No, it was fun, Steven. This was amazing. Thank you so much for your time on a Monday night.
Thank you for boosting my ego into ridiculous levels. You're really going to regret this shortly.
Well, probably. I'll just find some funny pictures of your stupid face and then I'll post online. Now, Steven, this was great. Thanks so much. And if you're still listening, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Definitely check out Steven, what he does, both in art and with the kindness of his heart, and reach out and do something nice. Thank you, people.